Hello, learners. Welcome to the MOOC course of Digital Humanities Theory and Practice. In the second lecture, we have learned about the digital archiving and the repositories. Moving to the lecture 3 of week 2, that is, evaluating online scholarly sources. Digital ages has transformed the academic research by scholarly material widely accessible through online journals, ebooks, institutional repositories, digital libraries, and the research databases. Students and researchers can now access a vast amount of information instantly. However, easy access does not guarantee quality or authenticity. The internet contains both reliable scholarly publications and misleading and unverified or sometimes biased content. Therefore, researchers must develop the ability to critically evaluate online sources before using them in academic work. Carefully evaluation ensures that the research is based on trustworthy evidences and maintains scholarly standards. Why are evaluating online resources relevant? See, more than 60% of the online information lacks peer reviews or editorial oversight. More than sometimes 2.5 million new websites appear daily, making quality control essential, and sometimes more than 10,000 predatory journals exist, mimicking legitimate scholarly outlets. That's why we are going to discuss an important topic in digital research and academic writing, which is evaluating online scholarly sources. How to evaluate them? What makes them relevant? What is the point of evaluating and what is the importance? So, in today's academic environment, much of our research takes place online. We read journals, articles, download research papers, access ebooks, consult university repositories, and use online databases for gathering information. Now, the internet has made scholarship more accessible than ever before. A student sitting at home can now access thousands of books, articles, and research materials from around the world with just a few clicks away, or within just few clicks. Now, this has greatly expanded opportunities for learning and research. However, this easy access also brings a challenge. Not everything available online is reliable, accurate, or academically usable or useful. Uh, Alongside genuine scholarly research, the internet also contains unverified information, biased opinions, and commercial content, and misleading materials sometimes. Therefore, as a student and researcher, it becomes essential for us to learn how to distinguish between trustworthy scholarly source and the unreliable one. Now, this process is known as evaluating online scholarly resources. Now, the importance of evaluating all scholarly resources or the sources cannot be overstated. Academic research is built on the evidence. If the evidence is if the evidence that we use is weak, inaccurate, or false, our research becomes weak as well. For example, imagine writing a research paper on a climate change using outdated statistics or unsupported claims found on an unreliable website. Now, such information would not only weaken your argument but also reduce the credibility of your entire research. On the other hand, if you use verified journals, uh, peer reviewed studies, and authoritative academic sources, your work becomes stronger, more convincing, and academically sound. So, these online resources should be relevant. And what makes them relevant is their credibility, whether they are coming from the credible resources or not, the reliability, whether the sources that are there, they are reliable or not, the relevance, whether they are relevant or not. If it has the academic value, only then it will be considered as relevant. Otherwise, those resources are could be misleading, could be manipulated, or it can have anything or everything. Now, the importance of evaluating scholarly sources. It ensures the accuracy of information. Academic research depends on factual correctness. Using inaccurate or outdated information can weaken an argument and lead to false conclusion. Evaluating sources helps confirm the data, statistics, and the interpretations presented are valid and supported by evidences. It also prevents misinformation. The online environment includes blogs, opinion pieces, commercial websites, and the content that may not undergo scholarly review. Without evaluation, researchers may unknowingly use unreliable material. Careful sources assessment protects against misinformation. Another important point is that it strengthens academic argument. Reliable scholarly sources provide the evidences that are based on the argument, research findings, and expert analysis. These sources help build strong academic discussions supported by authoritative evidences rather than unsupported claims. Then, another importance of evaluating scholarly sources is that it maintains research integrity. Academic integrity involves honesty, proper citation, and reliance on credible evidences. Evaluating sources ensures ethical scholarship and helps avoid the use of misleading or fabricated research. Last but not the least, supports higher quality researches. Well evaluated resources improve the overall quality, depth, and the credibility of academic writing, making researches more persuasive and academically sound. Now, criteria for evaluation, which is also known as CRAP test, which is an acronym that we generally use for the criterion for its evaluation. For our learners, there is a just a minor takeaway. Acronym is simply it's simply whenever you have an expression and you take the initials of that expression and use it as a word, that is known as acronym. So here we have an acronym that is CRAP test, which gives us currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. So C stands for currency. Now, currency refers to how recent the source is. In rapidly changing fields such as science, medicine, technology, and the social media, current information is especially important. Researchers should check publication date, date of revision or update when it is updated, whether the references cited are recent or not, relevance of the older scholarship to the current debates, and the current source reflects updated knowledge and the contemporary scholarship. Then another point that we have in the CRAP is where we have the R that stands for relevance. Now, relevance is a source must directly relate to the research topic and meet the researcher's needs. To determine relevance, consider: does the source address the research questions? Is the depth appropriate for university level work? Is the intended audience scholarly? Does it contribute meaningful insights? A highly relevant source improves focus and strengthens argumentation. Then we have another A, that is authority. Authority concerns the credibility of the author or the publishing body. Researchers should evaluate author's qualification and academic background, institutional affiliations, research expertise in the subject area, number of scholarly citations. An authoritative source is usually produced by expert or recognized academically institutions or recognized by academic institutions. Then another A stands for accuracy. Accuracy refers to the reliability and the correctness of information. Researchers should ask, is the argument supported by evidence or is it not? Are references clearly cited or there are some misleading references? Are the statistics verifiable or it's not taken into consideration or it's unverifiable? Has the source been peer reviewed or not? Is the writing objective and free of obvious errors? That means the writing should be objective in nature and it should be free of obvious errors. There has to be clarity in the writing, in the thought process of the writer. The next A is authority accuracy, we have already done so far. Yes, last but not the least, we have purpose. Purpose examines why the source was created. It may aim to inform, inform the audience. Here the audience are our reader, or audience can be anyone. To educate, to persuade, to sell a product, for example, to promote an ideology. Researcher must identify the potential bias, hidden agendas, or commercial interest. Scholarly work generally aims to inform through evidence-based discussions. Now, author's credibility is central in the scholarly evaluation. A reliable academic author often has, researcher should examine, often has, yes, author credibility is central in scholarly evaluation. A reliable academic author often has advanced educational qualifications, professional or university affiliation, publications in the peer-reviewed journals, experience in the relevant field, recognition by scholars through citations. Though these are not mandatory, but if a person has been doing a phenomenal job, then these things generally comes to the credit of that person, or to they add a certain feather in the cap of the author. But I am again, I must say these are not the mandatory part. These are not the prerequisite in order to be a credible author. One can be a credible author anytime if you have a strong argument, if your work is well researched, you can be a credible author. So researchers should examine authors' profile, academic biographies, and publication histories before trusting a source. Now, peer-reviewed process. Every journal goes through a peer-reviewed process. But what exactly peer-review process is? Peer review is a quality control in academic publishing. Before publication, research is examined by experts in the same field who evaluate the following points, which are originality of the research, how original the research is, soundness of the methodology, how clear the methodology is, validity of conclusions, whether the conclusions that are made by the author are validated by the arguments, are validated by the facts or not. Contribution to the existing scholarship. What are the contributions that are there in the existing scholarship? Do we have that or not? Clarity and academic rigor. These are the general points, or these are the things that we generally take into consideration before writing anything, or these are the general consideration which are examined by the experts in the same field. Now, peer-reviewed increases trust in the it increases the trust in the quality and the credibility of the scholarly material, making peer-reviewed articles highly valuable sources. Peer review is a process in which experts in the same academic field evaluate research before it is published. They examine the quality of the methodology, the validity of the findings, and the originality of the contribution. This process acts as a quality filter. Because of peer review, the articles published in the scholarly journals are generally considered highly reliable and academically credible. Now, these are the scholarly versus non-scholarly sources. Now, if we go about the criteria of those scholarly sources or the non-scholarly or the peer-reviewed or the popular ones, so first criterion for that we have is the author. So for author, we have expert researchers with credentials. But non-scholarly, For that, we have journals, we have journalists, we have bloggers, we have general writers. By general writer, I mean that people who do not come from an academic background. Now, another criterion for that we have is review process. Now, review process is, for the scholarly journal, we have blind peer review by subject experts. But for non-scholarly, we have editorial review or sometimes even no review. Then we have language. Language should be technical, discipline specific, or the use of jargons or the registers sometimes becomes a tool in order to make people understand the idea or the concepts. But in non-scholarly journals or scholarly sources, we have language that is general in nature. For because it is written, these are written for the general audience. So people do not take care of. People generally don't use the registers or the jargon, but they use very simplified vocabulary which is understood by the general audience or which has a very accessibility to the masses. Yes, for scholarly peer reviewed, another criterion is citations, which is something very important. Yes, citation is whether it has the extensive bibliography required. Yes, and for non-scholarly or the popular sources, we have either few or very less number of citations. I mean, one must have noticed that for after any research paper, we have number of resources because that shows how enriched your work is. And when you go through number of works, only then you will be able to figure out the research gaps. That's why people use extensive bibliography in scholarly journals or peer-reviewed journals. But journals or the resources that are not non that are non-scholars or that are popular in nature have very less formal citations. Another criterion is the purpose. Yes, that is something which is very important because that actually gives a sort of a context to the writer and the audience also. Advanced knowledge or the report research for the scholarly sources. But non-scholarly sources are generally used to inform people, sometimes to entertain people, and sometimes to persuade people. Then, of course, the scholarly examples are Nature, Gestor, PubMed articles. So these are scholarly and the peer-reviewed examples. And non-scholarly are Wikipedia, news sites, or the blogs. Another very important criterion is not important, but yes, another criterion in order to identify whether it is a scholarly source or not is the advertisement. Reputed journals, reputed scholarly sources, they don't advertise themselves. Their work, it speaks itself. So for peer reviewed or for scholarly reputed scholarly journals, they do not have advertisement. But non-scholarly or the popular sources generally have or generally has uh, advertisement. They advertise. Many of us generally gets every now and then we get emails from publication houses to get our work published. So these are the general advertisement that they marketing that they generally do, which scholarly or peer reviewed journals generally don't do. Now, trusted digital scholarly databases and tools. Now, today researchers have access to many trusted academic platforms such as Google Scholar, Gestor, Project Muse, and the university digital repositories. These platforms provide access to books, journals, articles, theses, conferences, papers, and the research documents that are often reviewed and produced according to the academic standards. Using such sources strengthens research quality significantly. Like, for example, the database that we have in the line is your Google Scholar. The first one is Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar, it is first of all free of cost. It is free and that has broad coverage across all discipline. It provides links to many full text and full text PDFs. It is for multidisciplinary, and the URL is simply scholar.google.com. The next that we have is Gestor. It is for humanities and social science. Now, Gestor, it has a archival journal articles. It is it's very much strong in humanities, social sciences, arts, and generally it is referred by most of the students and most of the university students. And again, the URL is simply gestor.org. Another one is Scopus. Now, Scopus is a large abstract and a citation database of peer-reviewed literature maintained by Elsevier. It indexes journal articles, conference papers, books and book chapters, reviews, and other scholarly publication. And of course, it is for the STEM and social science, and the URL is scopus.com. Another one is PubMed or the Medline, which is for medicine and health. Now, PubMed Medline is the premier database for biomedical and the life science literature, run by National Library of Medicine. Then we have Web of Science, which is for all the disciplines. Now, Web of Science, it has a subscription based model. It is good for citation tracking and impact factor analysis. Another one that we have is, and of course, I'm sorry, I forgot, the URL is the webofscience.com. The next one is ERIC. ERIC stands for Educational Resource Information Center. It is a major database of education research sponsored by the Institution of Education Sciences, USA. Education specific database is a free government resource. The next one that we have in the line is Project Muse. Project Muse is again it is a digital library that provides access to the scholarly books and journals, especially in the humanities and the social sciences. Last but not the least, we have ResearchGate, which is a multidisciplinary, and it is simply a professional networking platform for researchers and scientists, and it allows users to share publication, follow other researchers, and ask and answer research questions and discover scholarly work. It is generally used for academic networking. But at the same time, researchers should be aware of warning signs of unreliable resources. If a website does not mention the author, it provides no references, contains poor grammar, makes exaggerated claims, or appear heavily biased, it should be treated with caution. Similarly, websites designed mainly for the advertisement or website designed mainly for advertising or attracting clicks may not be suitable for the academic use. So one must keep that in mind. Now, a source may be unreliable if it is, or sometimes if it has, or there are certain warning signs that we generally take care of. If it has no author name, provides no citation or bibliography, article, if it contains spelling or grammatical mistakes, makes exaggerated claims, shows strong ideological bias, prioritize advertisement over information, uses sensational headlines, lacks publication details, or sometimes unsolicited emails inviting manuscript submission, which I previously talked in one of the previous slides. Promises of rapid publications, sometimes days, not even months. But the scholarly journals or the peer-reviewed journal takes months in editing. Sometimes they have very high article processing charges. Journal scope is impossibly broad. No clear peer review policy stated. Sometimes editorial board members not contactable, or sometimes they are fake. Publisher address not verifiable. So these are the warning signs of the predatory journals. And of course, which I talked earlier also, that there are times where we do not have, or a source may be unreliable if it has no author name, provides no citation or bibliography, contains spelling or the grammatical errors, makes exaggerated claims, shows strong ideological bias, or prioritize advertisement over information, use sensational headlines, lack publication details. So, recognizing these signs help researcher avoid weak academic evidences. So, if you are new to the academics or if you are starting your academic career, make sure you make sure you take care of these points very carefully in order to take off your academic career. Now, these are the checklist of certain Scopus websites, Web of Science and journals that are indexed. Now, but in order to know what exactly, whether in order to know, check if the journal is indexed or not, first we need to know what is indexed journal. An indexed journal is a journal that has included in a recognized bibliographical database or indexing services. These databases collect information about journal and their articles, making them easier for the researchers to find, cite, and evaluate. But why indexing matters? Because of the fact that it increases the visibility and the discoverability of the research. Sometimes, it often indicates that the journal meets certain quality and editorial standard. It also helps researcher take citation and research impact. Many universities and funding agencies prefer or require publication in indexed journals. Website evaluation. How do we evaluate them? So when using website, researchers should check certain things. For journals, we have already learned how do we check the journal is scholarly or not. But for website, there are certain things that we generally take care of, which is when you're using website, a researcher must check these things, whether the domain is credible or not. Because for example, most of the government website, they do have .gov, right? And like for example, the messaging service that we have from our service providers, telecommunication service providers. So if the message comes from the name and Airtel, for example, I shouldn't be saying the name, but yes, for example, Airtel P, that means it's a promotional message. If it says S, that means it is a service message. But if it says GOV, which means it is sent by the government. So domain generally has .gov, sometimes .edu, sometimes .org in most of the reputable websites. Whether the website has organizational ownership or not. If your website has contact information transparency, date of publication or the updation of the website should always be there. A good website will always have a citation of evidence. Professional presentation should always be there, and a good website generally has that. Clear editorial standards. And website credibility is essential because anyone can publish online these days. Now, tools for verification. Researchers can strengthen evaluation by using DOI verification, which is Digital Object Identifier. It's a permanent and unique alphanumeric code assigned to a digital publication such as journal article, book chapter, dataset, or report. Now, another tool is citation indexing databases. Then another tool for verification is cross-reference checking. University library catalog can be another tool. Out of all the tools we could have, among all the list of the tools, we could have university library catalogs. Yes, of course, plagiarism detection tool. Sometimes reference management softwares are there. We have fact-check resources. Verification tools help confirm authenticity and scholarly legitimacy. Now, a digital object identifier, as we discussed, is a permanent, unique alphanumeric string assigned to scholarly content. But when we and yes, good thing about the DRL, unlike the URL, DOI do not break over time and always resolve the correct source, right? They are persistent in nature and they are unique. Each DOI identifies a special digital object widely used in academic publishing. Most scholar articles include DOI these days to facilitate a citation and the retrieval. So this is something which is very important in order to identify whether the website or the journal is reputed, is peer reviewed, and unlike the fake website, unlike the URLs, it remains same even if the content moves to a different website. It will lead you to that particular website. Now, evaluating online sources is a yes. For conclusion, we can say evaluate every available source before citing, since not everything can be trusted. So, evaluating online scholarly source is an essential academic skill in digital research. It involves critical examination of credibility, authority, accuracy, relevance, and purpose. Strong evaluation practices improve research quality, support ethical scholarship, and help researchers build well informed, evidence based academic arguments. Now, with this, we can simply conclude in by just by saying that before doing anything, apply the CRAP test, which is, let's just summarize this whole thing, which CRAP test is simply currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose to every source. Prefer peer-reviewed journals or peer-reviewed sources, index journals over popular or unverified websites. Use DOI to verify and permanently locate scholarly publications. Be alert to predatory journals. Check, check, think, submit. Last but not the least, cross-reference finding across multiple credible databases. Always cite source correctly. Digital literacy is essential. Critical evaluation strengthens scholarship. Reliable sources produce strong academic searches. So with this, we come to an end of lecture 3, which was on evaluating online scholarly journals. So I shall meet you in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye. Thank you so much.